Hello, everyone. This is Jordan Silverman. I am the CEO of Starfish. I am extremely excited about today. Today, I am with Bruce Nelson. I first met Bruce year ago, probably about that. When I heard him on a podcast, I immediately bought his book and was just like, I got to meet this guy. I am super excited about what we are talking about. Today, we are exploring how AI is transforming restaurants. Bruce and I are going to have a long form conversation. We will post both the long form interview and the short clips. This way you can get a little bit of both. Bruce, welcome. Thank you for taking the time. Why don't you introduce the audience and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Jordan. I am Bruce Nelson. I am the CFO of Peak Financial Performance. I am a 45-year restaurant operation and financial expert. I'm also the author, as Jordan mentioned, of the book, Restaurant Management, The Myth, the Magic, the Math.
Bruce, can you tell us a little bit more about your background? Like what got you into restaurants? How did you decide to write a book? And what are you working on today?
Well, I've been in the restaurant business since I was 15 years old. My father owned a family-style restaurant in northern Minnesota. I started bussing tables and washing dishes for him. And by the time I was in my teens, I was cooking on the line. So I just followed that. Even though I went off to college and got my degree, my heart was always in restaurants. I kept coming back. Right out of college, I bought my first restaurant and operated for a couple of summers. And then moved to the Twin Cities, where most of my restaurant career has been located. Locally here in the Twin Cities, I have operated the suite level at Target Center, where the Timberwolves play. Worked for a very large Italian eatery in St. Paul called Casetta's, and most recently was the CFO for 15 years with a company called Nova Restaurant Group that had multiple brands, 10 stores, and about 900 employees.
Amazing background. I remember last year at NRA, it was my first NRA, National Restaurant Association show. I pretty much was stalking Bruce in the best possible way. I think in the best possible way because we're here now, Bruce. But out of everyone I was trying to meet, Bruce is who I was most excited about. I had just finished reading his book and I was just amazed at not only how well he understands restaurants and restaurant finance, but the stories you tell, Bruce, throughout the book are just incredible. So I want to start off and I want to talk a little bit about the current state of AI in restaurants. But before we just like dive into the current state, Bruce, when I say AI in the restaurant space, can you help me define that for people that might not know? What does that make you think about?
Well, it means using technology in place of really what humans would do, using technology to take reservations, to place orders, to analyze financial data, all things that can be plugged into an AI model or machine to produce information without a human actually touching it, is what I believe it.
I agree. I think there's like a pretty big misconception where when people think of AI in restaurants, they think of like robot waiters and they think of robot bartenders. And to me, that's very different than AI in restaurants. I think of AI in restaurants as a way to augment the work that's happening using artificial intelligence, less about like me being at a sushi restaurant and a robot coming over with my sushi, or me being at Disney World with my daughter and seeing a robot bartender. Do you agree with that? That AI and robotics are very different from a restaurant standpoint?
Yes, I do. Throughout my career, I always ended up in the data arena because we were integrating POS information with counting systems. So I've always been in the data collection, data analytics area. I look at AI as ways that we can automate the collection and understanding of that data. I look at it as ways that we can improve customer service.
All right. So now that we've done like a little bit of a set around what AI in restaurant space is, you work with a lot of restaurants at Peak. How do you see restaurants using AI right now?
Right now, as I mentioned before, I think probably the most obvious one is in the areas of reservations and order entry. Reservation systems have become very robust. They can, quite frankly, look at trends, historical trends, what's going on in the restaurant at that time with table turns and things like that, and actually plug people into tables more efficiently than a human. So that's one area. Obviously, order entry to be able to do all of our automation for orders online is another area that AI I think is really helping us. And not only do we get the information into a system, but automatically sends it all to the kitchen, and then more importantly starts gathering this data for whatever the next purpose is. We recently opened a pizza shop, and it was really interesting. This little tiny pizza shop had more technology in it than our top restaurant that was 5 times its volume. When you looked at what it took just to bring in third party delivery, online ordering, and then facilitate all those orders through an automated kitchen and then boxed up and back out the door to the third party and to our own deliveries using another third party delivery management app is like, it was amazing. Even in that little shop, the website and how we designed the menu on the website flowed to the digital boards that were in the restaurant. So you change the price on the website, automatically change the digital board. It was fun to put together, but holy
Really
cow,
cool.
what a
Really
lot of
powerful.
tech in one little store.
Wow. So it's really interesting. So you're talking about this single location. I hear a lot, um, like, oh, like AI is for the chains, like Wendy's just rolling out voice ordering. How do you think AI implementation or usage of AI differs between like the small independents and those large chains?
Well, the large chains have budgets and they can dream big, but it also takes a lot of time and resources to pull off big changes. It's the small independents that really can benefit from AI. It doesn't cost but bucks a month to bring in a reservation system that can manage all your reservations. Using AI to do scheduling um, is just as accessible to that mom and pop shop as it is to the 300 person or 300 chain store. So yeah, I think it's more of an equalizer for some of the small players because they really can access this technology pretty reasonably.
I tend to agree with you. Like where I get most excited about AI is a lot of this like data analyst role has been reserved for these large companies. But now all of a sudden, AI software can come, as you're talking about, Bruce, analyze a tremendous amount of your data and help you make better decisions.
You're absolutely right. The big chains do this. They hire guys like me to come in and analyze the data and put it out before them. But here's the reality: the big stores don't have the time to look at it and deal with it. The small stores, really, if they have access to it, especially in the area of establishing their menu for profitability, if they can go in and compete with that chain right down the street, and they have the data to back up where their pricing model is, they can do it confidently. So I do believe moving forward here in the AI world, it's the little guys that are going to benefit from this and be able to use it to leverage their space.
So we've talked about what is AI in restaurants. We've talked a little bit about current state and how small and big chains can use it. Let's transition a little bit, Bruce, to the future state of AI in restaurants, right? Because I think this is where it's like really interesting, but also confusing. How do you see restaurants using AI over the next, let's say, 5 years?
I think it's going to play out in a couple areas. One, obviously, is analytics. We talk a lot about that, how to get the data into a system and be able to analyze it quickly so we can make good decisions. Um, Counting, as I mentioned before, we're already automating invoices directly from a vendor into accounting systems, automatically posting all of those invoice items to the proper expense accounts. I think another area is in bill pay. We have the ability now to automate bill pay. I'm sure you, as a CEO of your company, you probably have a lot of your monthly stuff set up on a automatic renewal, just charging a credit card. We have the same ability in restaurants to start setting up automation. Even though the invoice number may change, the system knows, hey, I owe my food vendor this much money this week, and I can just automate that. Telephone ordering, I think, is going to be huge. With that little pizza shop I mentioned before, I tested some of the AI bots out there as far as being able to understand a human voice and walk them through the ordering system. Wasn't quite ready yet, but when they get that perfected, holy cow. Once again, for that small mom and pop pizza shop to be able to take those orders without having to, grab the phone themselves, going to be huge. I think the last place AI is going to have a huge impact is on marketing. When I say marketing, social media marketing. When your AI can start managing your social feeds, your Facebook, your LinkedIn, however it is you push out your information in the social sphere, and it can respond to the customers out there with intelligent information. It's again another thing that works 24/7 to promote your restaurant. So I think that's going to be huge as well.
Really interesting. I want to dive into a couple of those deeper, if that's okay. Let's start with the
Mm-hmm.
voice ordering. You are a CFO, not a CTO. I recognize that, right? But you've tested out a bunch of these different voice ordering systems. How far away? How?
Boy, the last one I tested, I think, was about 80% accurate. And I think it's pretty close. I'm kind of excited to go to NRA in a couple of these shows this spring season because some of the people I were talking to last year said they're pushing. They're getting it. They're getting it close. That's all I can say.
And listen, like I am the CEO of an AI software startup, right? So I will be the first one to tell you anyone that says the AI is 100% perfect is not using AI. It is not 100% perfect. So 80% for voice AI is pretty impressive. Bruce, you mentioned something else that was really interesting. So you mentioned using AI for marketing and social media. I'm curious, do you think that the AI is a time saver and that this is something you used to have to do manually and you no longer do? Or do you think it can actually get to the point where it's driving additional revenue because it's smarter because it has all of these data points to run off of that a human, me, you, or anyone else, could never actually manually analyze?
The latter. It is smarter because it can gather the data of your customers or your potential customers. AI already has the ability to track engagement on a website like Facebook. And if that customer is in a restaurant's loyalty system, it can link those two and we can say, okay, we sent out a Facebook post to Joe Smith. Joe Smith came back into our restaurant not only once, he came in 5 times over the last 30 days. We can even track the lifetime of that particular customer all on AI. That's one aspect of it. The other part of it is just getting smarter towards your advertising. Most people on social media do a shotgun approach.
Mm-hmm.
They will, put together whatever their post is and they just blast it out there. Well, in the restaurant space, unless you're within X amount of miles and right time of the day, um, right mood to eat, it's all wasted. So AI actually is very smart. Even back to the marketing, it can right now take a look at customer frequency and say, okay, back to my Joe Smith example, Joe comes in here every weekend. So as long as Joe keeps coming every weekend, maybe we'll send out some stuff saying, here's what's coming up. The minute Joe misses a weekend, we're going to go target Joe
I
and we
like
will
that.
send him a specific note. Now, can a human do that? Yeah. But how many humans would it take to do it with a 5,000 person database?
Yeah. or even
AI doesn't look
10, 15 locations, right?
right. Yeah. This thing just doesn't. Yeah. So I think in the area of marketing, AI is pretty exciting. And talk about an equalizer for the small guy, because big chains, they have marketing departments, people that show up to these big trade shows, and they're chasing down big dollar softwares. Well, it's not that expensive to add this to your POS, to your ordering system, and have it linked to your Facebook page.
Really cool. We're talking about AI and the future of restaurants. Is there anything that worries you?
I think the thing that concerns me the most, and I'll use an example, is people talk about ghosts or phantoms in the system.
Hmm.
There was recently a court case where the prosecution went back to the judge and say, "Hey, judge, 7 of the 9 cases that were presented in this case, we can't find." Well, the attorneys that put together the brief just used AI to do it, and they were phantom cases. We've all heard about this in AI. People are testing these systems, and it seems to come up with phantom information. It just sort of makes stuff up. So I think we need to figure out who's going to go in and make sure that we can root out those specters, if you will. Because I'm using it to make financial decisions in my restaurant. Boy, I certainly need to know that if it says my food costs are, 28%, that's a real number.
It's such an interesting point, Bruce, and it's something that I think a lot about here at Starfish because we're obviously doing financial analysis for people using AI. We actually have a team in the Philippines that double checks everything the AI outputs because, as I said before, it's not 100% accurate. So what happens is the AI reads all the data, makes sure it doesn't missing anything because it's a lot better at not missing things than me, you, or any other human. But then the output, it still has to be manually checked. Now, how that scales up to millions, that's a challenge. But I think it's really important in this early stage of AI. So I think it's a really interesting thing that I also worry about because I'm just imagining, not even the financial analysis side, I'm even just imagining if you're just letting the AI run the marketing and it's sending out 10,000 messages, one of those messages is going to say 100% off.
What's happened? I have heard of people that, let the machine send it out, and all of a sudden they were doing free pizzas on a Friday night.
So we talked about AI today, AI in the future. How should a restaurant decide where to implement AI first? Because you always got to start somewhere. How should they decide if it is inventory or scheduling to lower costs or marketing to drive revenue or the chatbots? Like, how should a restaurant actually decide where should they start with AI?
I think they should start where they can get the most immediate relief in labor and convenience to their customers. So if we can implement some form of AI and it can reduce, one staff person per shift, that's that's a good return on investment there. More importantly, I think if the AI enhances a customer experience, the being able to go and make my own reservations, I absolutely love. How many times in the old days did you stay on hold trying to make a dinner reservation and then, going through all well, that's not available. Now I got to check my calendar to go online and make a dinner reservation is gold. And I believe in most cases enhances the customer experience because I can do that while I'm sitting at my desk, doing other things. I don't need to stop and make a phone call. So that's where I think it has, where you start is where can I either reduce some labor or convenience my customers.
I grew up in the suburbs of New York, and there was this amazing Italian restaurant I used to go to every year for my birthday, Piero's. And I remember one time we called to make a reservation, and the manager picked up the phone, and then something happened in the restaurant. Like it does, he said, "Oh, like please hold on," and he put the phone down. Bruce, we tried to call back for 3 straight hours, and the manager never hung up the phone. The phone just sat there. So for an entire night, not only could people not make reservations, they were just busy because the manager just got busy and he forgot to hang up the phone. So it's incredible what those small changes can do.
I think in some areas in the kitchen, there'll be some definite savings if it can go through and start analyzing menu mix and helping the chefs determine prep lists, order guides, things like that. Those are definitely time saving items and can reduce waste. Not as pretty as the first two I talked about as far as, helping customer and really actual labor in front of the house.
Any words of wisdom or caution for restaurant owners or operators before they jump into implementing AI?
Ah, you know, probably for me, looking at this is understanding what's going on with that data and who has access to it. I don't really care if my competitors know what my sales volume are. I don't care if they know what vendors I use because, you know, they really can't duplicate it. But if all of a sudden my competitors can see my recipes, my methods, my pricing structure, things like that. So I guess for me, the biggest concern I would have is, okay, if I'm working with a customer, I need to make sure that the methods and the proprietary things within my company stay there because that's what I spent all my time and energy building. And that's what makes this particular store unique.
We talked about a lot, so I know this is going to be hard. If you had to pick one prediction for how AI will reshape restaurants in the future, what would it be?
I think it's going to be in the area of ordering. Think about this from the same perspective that you and I do when we go make an airplane reservation or a hotel reservation, right? We're going out to some huge database. I'm going from the Twin Cities to Miami for a show. I plug it in and it's going to spit out all the rates, right? And we're going to go select the flight meets our budget and what we want. What happens if that occurs in ordering? Like all of a sudden now I've got my order guide plugged out. AI has already told me based on what I sold yesterday, here's what I need to order today. It can make that order guide. What if it took it to the next step and went out to my 5 vendors and said, based on what you got placed out on the market, what's the best price? A vendor that's sitting on a bunch of bananas can lower the price. He can move those bananas. I get a better price on my produce. I think there's some kind of cool stuff coming down in the area of ordering and how we manage the cost of product coming into a store.
That's really interesting. I want to give a shout out. I've got a friend, Dave, who runs a software startup called Whoop. I mean, they're going after this, Bruce, pretty hard, where they believe that if you can choose from different vendors, only vendors you approve from, right? But if you can actually do proper cost comparison and get real-time prices from them, you can make a pretty significant impact to the bottom line.
Right. And there's a little, I think I don't, I mean, I got a lot of friends that are vendors. They may listen to this podcast and say, you're killing me, Bruce, but um, I think we're going there anyway. So, to my shout out to the vendors, you still have to be the best at plucking that product from the shelf and getting it into my door at the time I need it. So just because I got cheap bananas, if they show up at noon on a Friday afternoon, I don't want them.
I also think it's like you will always be able to find cheaper products from a different vendor, but knowing that you're getting quality and delivery at the right time is just as important, if not more important.
It really is, because if I got a production team starting at 8, I got to have a truck in and put away by 7.
Yeah. All right, let's do a quick lightning round before we wrap out. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. I want you to say true or false and give me 15, 20 seconds on each, okay? First one, waiters will be replaced by robots.
I don't think so. False. It sounds trendy. We've all been to shows and we see it. I think people go out to eat because they want to interact with people.
Number two, AI will have a larger impact on back of house than front of house.
Overall impact, true. I do believe it's going to affect ultimately labor, production, and food ordering in the back of the house.
We talked a lot about voice ordering, so I think I know where this one's going. But AI voice ordering will help QSR operators reduce lines.
True. It's going to have a huge impact on those stores, especially that do takeout and like pizzas.
Personalized menus and marketing will significantly boost restaurant revenue. And for this, I mean getting advertising and marketing around specific things for a person's taste.
True. Again, as I mentioned before, I think what it's going to do with social media is huge. Being able to target ads directly to the customers, you know, time of day that they're interested, it's coming.
All right, the last one I think might be the hardest. So I think anyone watching this or listening to this knows that cost of goods are going up. Like the cost to make an item is increasing. If you
Yes.
think about restaurants 3, 4, 5 years down the road, do you think COGS will be higher or lower than they are today? And I'm asking about two things. Number one, I think we both agree that
Mhm.
AI can help lower COGS, but do you think that will actually
Mhm.
offset the increasing prices?
I think it's going to have to, because there is a certain tolerance that people will for money spent on restaurants. If we can't keep the cost of goods roughly at the same percentage they are now, just less people will go out to restaurants. So we're always into this battle of keeping it, controlling the cost of goods. I do think that understanding, if we can get the information in on the cost of costing or what it costs, being able to use AI to grab that information and very quickly let us know where these menu items are set in profitability scale. If we can start eliminating, oh, you know what, pork went up today, so we're gonna, either raise the price if it's a special, or we're just gonna have to remove it because we can't sell it and make that margin. Things like that. I think we're gonna see the AI having a bigger impact on helping us make those decisions.
Great. Bruce, thank you again for taking the time for educating everyone on where you see AI having the biggest impact on restaurants. I want to give you the floor for a few minutes. Talk about what you are working on and how people can reach out to you.
Well, sure. As I mentioned, I'm CFO of a company called Peak Financial Performance. I perform fractional CFO work as well as helping restaurants understand their restaurant data. I do work with companies that are expanding, banking work, trying to help get loans, things like that. Succession planning. You got a restaurant you want to sell. Oftentimes guys like me come in and help you analyze it to figure out what its value is. Um, so those are some of the things I do right now. I'm actually very excited about this AI because I do truly believe that AI has the ability to eventually fill in gaps of data. I've been working, as you well know, with restaurants for 45 years. The biggest challenge we all have is data integrity, specifically getting the information in from our vendors and plugging it into a system and knowing what our costs are. Restaurants are notoriously bad at this. And if AI can start looking at history of the information, comparing it to industry standards because it knows stuff about the market, it actually, I think, has the ability to start filling in gaps of data and giving us, especially the independent restaurant, information to make decisions on, even though the data is incomplete. So I'm kind of excited about seeing how we can make it intuitive to fill in those gaps. So that's what I see coming professionally. A couple of passion projects I'm working on. My second book is going to be on restaurant growth. I am I am writing that one, and I'm also working on a third book that I call The Sacred Table. And this one is really near and dear to me. I started it back in 2018, and I tabled it because of COVID and a bunch of other stuff. But in this book called Sacred Table, I'm talking about how I introduced hospitality that I learned in the restaurant business into my home, and how I incorporated restaurant thinking into buying, preparing, and serving food in my house for my family, my children, and for events. So I don't know if anybody's going to pick that book up. If nothing else, it'll be a guide to my children when they start having families, and they can start saying, okay, why did dad do this? It was because, it wasn't just accident. There was a method to why I did what I did in my home with cooking and preparing food. Both those can be tracked on two different Substack channels that I maintain every week. So I can be found at Substack at Bruce L. Nelson. Also, I have a website, brucelnelson.com, where you can find more information about what I do with regard to my CFO work. And I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, and X.
And Bruce, I'll make sure to include links to all of that. I will say, I said at the beginning, Bruce's first book, The Myth, the Magic, and the Math around restaurant management, I loved. It was amazing. So I'm really excited for books number 2 and 3. Do you have a preferred way of people reaching out to you? I'm sure we're going to get some viewers that want to talk to you. What's the best way to reach you?
I'm on LinkedIn every day, so you can always
Perfect.
message me through LinkedIn. See, that's probably the best. I do have an email. If you want, we can give it to you and put into the follow-up link to this. You certainly can email me, but to be honest, that gets kind of noisy.
Sounds like LinkedIn. Okay, cool. Bruce, anything else?
Well, Jordan, like I said, I'm so excited that we connected because there's a lot of interest in data analytics and AI. And I am just so excited for you that you're on the cutting edge of this. And I'm very excited to see where you go with Starfish with regard to this.
I appreciate that, Bruce. No, I think you and I are very aligned that AI is a good thing for our industry, and it creates opportunity, not cost. Of course, there'll be trouble and struggles, but it is a positive. Thank you, everyone, for watching this. Again, this is the long form video. We will do some shortcuts as well. I will put all of Bruce's contact information in the comments. If you have questions for Bruce, feel free to comment or reach out directly to him. And Bruce, thank you so much. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you, Jordan. Take care.